Hi, you guys.
Hey, everyone.
And so, once again, like I said, guess who I have here? Mr. Hathaway's joining us for a really fun topic about being deceived and betrayal and all that. So I'm going to put my glasses on for a little bit. And what I'm going to do to start out, hi, Mike Morris. Hi, Kate. So I'm just going to take a couple of minutes here to say hi and set this up for today, okay? Well, first of all, the last time that I had Brian on here, people got a hold of me and were like, we love having Brian on there. We want him on there more. And I'm like, well, too bad. I do this on Wednesdays and he's at work. But because this week was a holiday and I coached on different days, thanks for the hearts, you guys. I had to move the live stream, and so the old Mr. Hathaway was home again, and I was like, hey, here's what's happened this week, and so I'm going to go over this. Here's what's happened this week on Facebook. I posted a question, and man, did it get a lot of attention, a lot of responses. So I just want to say again, thank you, all of you. This is how I know what's important and what we need to talk about. So thank you for that, and I'll go back and read the question. Let me just say this again. This is the Revolutionary Love Group. That's my business. I am Barb Beck. I'm a 21-year relationship coach. Been doing this forever and love it, love it, love it. Brian and I have, we met 2.5 years ago. We've been married just, I don't know, a year or something.
Almost 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know.
Who's counting?
It doesn't matter who's counting. Hi, Christine. Hi, Annika. How are you? So, excuse me, I'm also getting over this redonkulous cold and cough, and finally, I was like, I can do it.
Which I didn't get, by the way.
Yeah, and I just finally went to the doctor, got all these prescriptions, so excuse my voice and my cough, whatever. But deep breath. Here's what we're going to do today. I'm going to read this question that I posted on Facebook, just in case any of you here haven't seen it. Hi, Annika. She said, great to see you both. Shiny eyes and smiles. It's so good that you're here. So I'm going to read the question. Hi, Sam. Look, Sam. Look who's here.
Hi, Sam.
Your cohort. Oh, my God. And what I would really like, most of you don't actually put questions on here when I'm live. I would love, 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 love for you when I'm doing this teaching and talking, when Brian's sharing, and yes, he's going to share some personal things. Oh boy, I know that's actually the only reason you're here. To ask some questions, either of me, maybe of Brian. I don't know the next time he can be on. So this is really important, and this topic, ouchie, ouch, ouch, of being deceived in a relationship in all its many forms, lying, betrayals, affairs, all the things that we think about. This is a really important for us topic to talk about. Not because I want all of us to get into our juicy stories. That's not the point of this. So when Brian shares today, or I do, or whatever, the point isn't for us to be able to, oh, good, we can get on live and, bitch about what, our exes have done to us, or our old boyfriends and girlfriends. That's not the point. Our stories are important, but only in terms of what we've learned from them. And of course, what I'm trying to do here is help with teachings that help you guys deal with what we do if we're dealing with something like that, what messages we give ourselves, how we need to retrain our thinking after we've been deceived. Yeah, thumbs up on that. Give me some hearts or thumbs up if this is resonating. And most important, maybe not most important, really important, what do we do if we've been experiencing that and we're ready to head back out in the dating world? Try to have a long-term relationship again? Is this going to get in the way? Are there walls of protection and fears and things like that that are getting in the way? Which is what the conversation was on Facebook this week. So many people discussing this and talking about personal experience and pain. Hi, Erica. So, hi, everybody here. Hi, Erica, Sam, Annika, everybody. Thank you for being here. Let me go and read the question, okay, that I posted on Facebook. And and then we'll jump in. So what I put was, and by the way, this was not some brilliant thing I came up with. This was in a recent book that I read, and it was so fascinating to me that I wanted to post it. So the question I posted was, which relationship problem do you fear most? Okay, so if you haven't seen this post, think about it, get your journal. This is where we get our journals, everybody. Oh, Erica said he's so cute. Hey, I know. Thank you. Always so well timed. I feel like that about yours, Erica. Hey, Jeff, glad you're here. Okay, back to the question. I won't get distracted. Which relationship problem do you fear most? Okay, so if you haven't heard this question or seen it on my Facebook page, get your journal out, write that down. Here are the choices. There are 5 choices. 1, getting bored. 2, realizing you could do better. 3, growing apart. 4, your partner becoming dependent on you. 5, being deceived. So interestingly, when I work with married couples or people in long-term relationships, what I hear most of the time, the fear, or I don't even know if I would say it's a fear, the concern or what they're starting to deal with are more of, I'm starting to, they don't maybe realize or wonder if they could do better. And what that sounds kind of bad, but what it means is they're wondering if they settled in some way. And when you were on here before, we talked about that. We were talking about when Brian was ready to go out dating again. I think it was around the dating live stream I was doing or something. And I was asking you what got in the way of that.
Right.
And you were talking about, not really having requirements and sort of settling. So that one, realizing you could do better or basically settling or growing apart, is such a familiar topic and conversation that I'm having all the time with clients. I was a little bit surprised that I'd say 90 to 95% of the responses on Facebook all said number 5, for sure, being deceived. So the question was, which relationship problem do you fear most? And almost all of you said being deceived. And that was fascinating to me. And so I went in and I made sure that I answered every one of your comments and said, is that because that's just something that you're internally dealing with? Or is that as a result of an experience that you had? And again, almost every one of you said it's the result of an experience that I had. It's a result of an affair. One of you said it's the result of somebody having three people that all had affairs on me. A couple of you said it was a result of living with somebody who was a compulsive liar and constantly being deceived. So, wow, that is one that just made me incredibly sad. I know that there is so much of this going on out there in relationships, but it breaks my heart because I do deal with so many people and so many couples that are trying to recover and then repair from affairs. It's some of the work that I do. I worked with a company for a while called Save the Marriage, and half of those clients that I got from there were dealing with either an affair or a midlife crisis. So I'm doing a lot of talking here. Let me say hi to Deborah. Hi. I want to see what this comment is. Okay, Erica, falling for, darn it, getting attached to someone who isn't capable of the relationship I offer, which is like 2 and 3 and 5. Yeah, gotcha. Hi, Billy. Yes, we're going to talk about that. So when I got so many of these, my fear in a relationship all centers mainly around my fear of being deceived. I was talking with Brian about it, and he said, well, yeah, that was really, really hard for me. And then I remembered that we had in the beginning this really deep, lovely, long, meandering conversation about, I'll let him tell you his story, what he did and how he healed and that kind of thing, which is what I want to share with you. I know we all have stories, but I want to see how we can be helpful. So I'm just going to turn this over to Brian really quick and just, I guess, say, what can you share with our Revolutionary Love group? And then we'll jump into where we go from there, about what your personal experience was around Number 5, being deceived. And then I've got a lot of questions for you today and for everybody about what we then do to make sure that we don't live through the rest of our life living out, this story. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I've got kind of this angelic light around me right here.
Then scoot over by me. Let me scoot over, you guys.
So anyway, yeah.
He is an angel.
I was married for 15 years, and toward the end of several years before my marriage ended, I came to learn that my wife was having an affair, and that for me was very devastating. But when I look at the 5 things, the deception was what was most hurtful. Knowing that you're being, lied to, things are being done behind your back. What you thought was, a relationship based on trust.
Trust. We're going to go back to the trust word, you guys.
That's shattered. So there's nothing there at that point. There wasn't for me to feel like, well, gosh, I could try to repair this, but it wasn't ever going to happen.
And so when you found out about this affair, I can say this because I'm his wife. I think the strange thing to me, maybe you guys can relate, was that you and she never talked about that you knew all this.
Yeah.
That's okay. We have to talk about that because that's on him.
Yeah.
That's not on her.
No, I didn't come forth with that request. I mean, it was just kind of...
What request would that have been?
Well, I'd like to know more about, why you made this choice, why you chose to have this affair.
So think about this. So he finds this out, and then she asks for a separation or divorce.
Yes.
And this guy never actually talks about it, never communicates about it. He knows I'm not getting on him. Never has this authentic conversation, and still never has. Oh my God! And so, again, I'm not judging, I'm saying, I'm pointing out, and I'll be pointing some things out about myself, and I want you guys to share about you. First of all, look at the craziness of that. So that's very telling about what was going on in their marriage, isn't it? Separation, a divorce, he knew it was because of an affair, has never talked about it, didn't address it with her, just went ahead with the ending.
Yeah.
Wild. Okay, that does stuff in here. Because there's no clearing, that sets up resentments, all kinds of things. And so that is part which Brian will talk to you about what he needed to clear out. So what also you had said to me is this, you knew that you guys had in some ways a pretty good marriage and in other ways not so great marriage.
Yeah, so
how would you call it?
I would go to number 3, growing apart. I mean, I sensed that,
How long had you been married?
15 years. And so I remember at one point where I'm kind of sensing that, because she'd be off doing her own thing at night, dancing and everything. I'd be taking care of the boys, and then I'd be working during the day. And so there wasn't really a lot of time. There wasn't a lot of time given.
For what?
Well, to maintaining intimacy, to having, meaningful discussions about who we were.
And so I'm going to jump in as a relationship coach and say what you're hearing Brian say is what I'm telling you guys over and over and over and over and over and over and over. It is not, a long-term relationship doesn't really break down because of communication. We all say, oh God, it's a lack of communication, or we don't communicate the same, or whatever. It's not that. Remember, journal's out, you guys. It's what? You guys can answer this for me at this point. Hi, Doug. Hi, Steph. Emotional connection, right? At this point, all of you in this Revolutionary Love Tribe should be able to answer this. It's when the emotional connection is getting broken down, getting stretched too thin. And that's what you just described between you and your former spouse was, you said number 3, growing apart. Okay, I, as a relationship expert, call that the emotional connection, that sense of, I've got your back, you've got mine, we're a team, we're in this together, it's you and me, babe. When that emotional connection gets stretched too thin or breaks down, that's what happens. We feel like, number 3, we're growing apart. Here's what I also hear in long-term relationships. When that's happening, it feels like you're falling out of love. That's when spouses say to each other, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Oh my God, I did my talk on that one. So you're saying that's what was going on. You were growing apart. The emotional connection was getting stretched too thin. And then you guys would have problems. What would you do when you would realize yourself? Like, what did you try to do to be proactive? Anything or nothing?
I tried at times to open a dialogue, and it would never gain traction.
Okay.
We wouldn't get to the point where we could have not just have conversation, but make a connection on the things that were important.
The emotional connection.
Yeah, the emotional connection. That was just, it was absent.
Okay.
And we did try to go to therapy, and we'd do that, and we'd come back and go, okay, it's going to be different now and everything. But we didn't keep at it on the emotional connection, and so it never worked.
So I want to interject something here. It's a little bit sideways, but it feels really important to me. And again, you guys know me well enough to know that I am not sitting here trying to sell you coaching and have you call me. And if you need to, you'd better, and I mean it. But you've heard me say this too. I believe wholeheartedly in therapy, individual therapy. This is a personal belief, and from my experience as a 21-year coach and from having done some couples counseling with a spouse, I don't believe in marriage counseling, couples counseling. In general, I don't believe in it. And that's because talk therapy is about how do you feel about that and that kind of thing. And I don't believe that helps couples. I believe in the couples coaching that I do, that all my beautiful colleagues do, and that's because it's action-oriented. So what I heard you say, which was my experience in marriage counseling also, was you go and you're doing a lot of talking about what's not working,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yep.
He does this, she does that. You're giving a place to vent and that kind of thing. But in coaching, it's, okay, so here's what's happening and here's what's not working. What do you want it to look like? What would it look like if it was a high-functioning, fabulous marriage?
Never asked that question.
And then, okay, what are the steps to get there? So I just have to interject that right there. That is what is the beauty of couples coaching or individual coaching. I really actually rarely work with couples. I work with an individual because there's usually only one person interested in working on the relationship. Isn't that fascinating? And then that has this huge positive influence on the relationship or the marriage, and things get better. Okay, so I kind of went over there. And so you did try to do some of these things, and nothing was getting traction and that kind of thing. And so what happens how is it that somebody decides to, in some way, slide out of a marriage or a long-term relationship? Because that's what an affair is, and that's what you're describing in terms of what happened with you and your spouse. You guys had been doing things, trying things. I mean, at least she was participating. She said she would go to therapy. Mm-hmm. We're trying things. I'm sure that she was trying things too. But regardless, at some point, she made a different choice, a choice that was out of integrity.
Right.
So I'm looking like maybe there's a question here, so I'm going to stop right here and see. What would it look like or be like if this relationship were high-functioning, connected, fulfilling, creative, sexy, juicy? Love this question. So, yes, Annika, what Annika is saying is what I was just saying about the questions that we ask of an individual or a couple when we really are trying to help. That's a beautiful question, Annika. In fact, I'm going to write that down. When we start helping a couple or an individual, even if the other partner is not working on this, to say, what do you vision? What would be juicy? What would be magnificent? What would be a relationship that you couldn't wait to get home to? This gets a different part of our brain thinking, doesn't it? It gets us really thinking. And the sad part about my experience and all my clients, who most of them come to me saying they've done some form of couples counseling and said it didn't work. What was missing, they tell me, you're saying was missing and was missing when I did it, was that there was no visioning. There was no expansive thinking. There was no, let's figure out what specific actions both of us could take to create this beautiful connection. Yeah,
it was just
Annika said, you're cracking me up. That was, oh, that was, okay.
What was your question?
Gosh, I'm really good, aren't I? Okay. Annika, you better than anyone know how we get those downloads and those things just flow through us. When I'm coaching, somebody will come back and say, oh my God, that was good. Could you repeat it? And I go, no, I don't even. You know that because you're so good at it. Okay, I feel like I'm getting sidetracked. And so without judgment, I'm not sitting here trying to judge your former or you or anything. When someone then decides we're doing these things, they're not working, doing it, yeah, you get to the point where you just feel like, oh my God, is this my life? I mean, I remember you saying you got to that point in your marriage. You told me where you were like,
I'm like, this is it?
This is,
wow.
Yeah, because you've tried what? A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Didn't work.
Didn't work.
I kind of got to a point where I was resigned to, maybe this is as good as this can be.
And why didn't you have an affair? If you just got to the point where you're like, God, okay, this is what I have. We've tried all these things. Why didn't you just go, I think I'll have an affair and juice it up?
I never considered it. It was never an option. I didn't.
Why?
Because that's not what you do in a marriage. It's my belief.
So you had a strong...
Very strong belief about
belief, and that integrity in that area
Yes.
was important to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so again, I guess what I want to say for anybody who's been there, for any of you who have been there and stepped out on somebody who's been out of integrity. I've been out of integrity in my life. Have you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
You kidding?
That'll be another one where we just come on and tell our horrible stories. So again, I want to emphasize, this is not, we're not on here to tell some juicy story or trash exes. I want to help you, and I'm going to move on now into the teaching, but wind this up with, you didn't have an affair when you realized, oh my God, I don't think anything else is going to help this situation. I think I'm just, here, and is this all there is? This doesn't feel great. You didn't, because you had a way that you held your feet to the fire around what was integrity for you, that you said that wasn't an option.
Right, that's correct.
So what did you do that wasn't healthy or good then when you reached that place that was just like, geez, I don't know what else to do? What did you do that wasn't helpful?
I shut down.
Okay.
That's
what most of us do.
I shut off the communication. I was not willing to talk. The trust was gone, and it just...
That was before the affair.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yes.
We're talking before the affair.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then, obviously, what your spouse did was consider that an option. And again, I want to say, in my experience, most people who have affairs are not bad, horrible people, and they don't sit around, this is my experience, they don't sit around thinking, you know what I think I'm going to do? I think what would be really a great idea and really fun is to go out and have an affair. I'm not, in all of my years of working with people that have had affairs or on the receiving end of it or working with the couple, that was not what happened. Guess what actually happened? It started as an emotional connection. What did I just say was missing in a long-term relationship? The emotional connection gets stretched too thin or broken down. Most affairs start with an emotional connection. Hi, Sarah. Gosh, you joined right at this time, didn't you, Sarah? You know what I'm talking about. Moved from an emotional connection to an emotional affair. That means we start sharing intimately with someone who's not our partner, right? Because it feels good and this person's a good listener and they care about us. And that emotional affair moves into a physical affair. That is how this normally happens. And I have to see Sarah's comment. Yes, ma'am. Because she's been through this, and she was my client, and we worked through this. So I just want you to all understand that most people are not just jerks and assholes who are sitting around thinking, hey, I don't care about him. You know what I'm going to do that's going to be fun? I'm going to go sleep with somebody. I'm going to go have an affair. That's not how it works. And so hear me say this. Most of the time then, we have some responsibility not for that other person's poor choice and behavior. That is 100% on that person. They made that choice to be out of integrity, make a decision that would break vows, break commitments, hurt another person, hurt the marriage. They don't even know that it's going to hurt themselves. That's all them. That's 100% that person. But do understand that in a long-term relationship or a marriage, there is a part that that other spouse has in that connection getting broken down. Wouldn't you agree? You've described it.
I participated in that.
In participating in that emotional connection getting stretched too thin.
You bet.
In adding to the unconsciousness, in adding, as you said, to the shutdown or whatever. Now you may say, I tried everything else. I didn't know what to do. I'm not saying, maybe you needed to end the marriage then. You know, maybe somebody needed to end the marriage without the affair, whatever. I'm just saying we take ownership of our part. If somebody else has had an affair or betrayal or is lying to us or deceiving us, we take responsibility for our part in why we're there, how we're participating, what we're adding to the dynamic, what we're creating in terms of this weird dysfunction between us, okay? That's what we take responsibility for, and that's what we look at, and that's what we try to change. What we don't take responsibility for, which I'm going to go right over here into this next part, is taking this personal, which is the downside and the painful side of somebody having an affair. We don't take responsibility for that person's choice, and we don't take it personal. And the first thing most people do when they find out that their partner has had an affair is get furious and angry and then go immediately into hurt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you do take it personal.
And take it personal.
Yeah, you do take it personal.
What did you, when you found out, what were like the first two emotions or things that you went through when you found out you'd been deceived? That's what we're talking about here, is being deceived.
I'd say number one was I was deeply disappointed and did not understand. I couldn't figure out why that would have happened. And then it's really realizing that I wasn't showing up and being a part of the relationship like I could have. So I was in total denial of those things.
Of what thing?
Of the thing that I was, contributing to how this marriage was not working well. And I thought I was doing everything I needed to do to have a good marriage.
Well, you're saying you were doing some things.
Yeah, I was doing some things, but I'm sure there were things that I wasn't
But then, you said after doing some of those things and your words not getting traction, you said you must have just gone into kind of a shutdown. Is that?
I did. Okay. Yeah, shut down. Because I thought, well, this is as good as it's going to get.
So my question being, when I said when you found out, the emotions you went into were first disappointment.
Anger.
Mm-hmm. And then did you go into what I'm going to talk about next? Did you go into taking it personally, or did you always know this is not about me?
No, I took it personally because I was thinking, well, what could I have done better along the way? What could I have done to have this not happen?
Okay. So right here again, this is where you grab your journals, and I want to see I really want you guys talking to me here, and normally I know I just go into a teaching and I don't start looking. I want you talking. I want you to ask Brian questions, me questions. I'm going to keep kind of interrupting the teaching to take your questions. So Sarah said, feels personal. I know, we talked a lot about that, especially when your partner refuses to get back into integrity. Bingo. So let's talk about that taking it personal. What I know Well, I've gone through this before with a person, not somebody I was married to, but somebody that I was with for 4.5 years. And that person left with a phone call saying, "I'm small, you're big. Goodbye." I actually keep thinking there's a book there because I was like, what the H?
That's a good
like,
title.
What in the world? Well, what that was just an excuse. That was something to say. It was like some version of, it's not you, it's me. You know, that kind of thing. What actually happened was a secret note had gotten passed at an AA meeting to this person saying, "Oh, I can't take my eyes off you. You're so sexy, blah, blah, blah." And my partner had told me about it, and we both were like, whoa. And I thought, isn't that great that we have that kind of relationship where this person told me about that, you know, and dealt with it. But within 2 weeks, I guess my partner decided it might be something really fun to explore. And out of the blue, you know, I'm small, you're big, toodaloo. So I've been there. I was devastated. I was crushed. And part of, for me, not only because I was in love with the person, but because of the shock factor. I mean, to be with somebody that long and in a phone call, nothing, just really out of the blue overnight, you know, have one of those phone calls saying something that ridiculous and then not see that person. His person was like, "And I can't see you for 3 months." You know, I'm like, how'd we come up with that time frame? It was devastating. And I'll tell you, this wasn't a 3-month thing. We just broke up. And I went through just what you did. I went through initial just what the F anger.
That's it. It's that there's a shock factor, no matter how it's delivered to you. There's a shock factor where it just catches you totally blindsided.
Yes, yes. That really pulls the rug out from under you. And I think that shock factor helps add to your, what am I trying to say? Sort of your resilience gets broken down. Because for me, the shock sort of had me feel like I lost my resilience, like I lost my inner strength, like I was stunned. And so I felt disempowered. I felt weak. Let me see what somebody else is sharing in there. Christine said, you go through the grieving process. Absolutely. Yeah. Sarah said, is the inability to recognize and resolve a stretched connection with people become serial cheaters. Okay, let me come back to that, Sarah. I'm not sure what you're saying, so let me come back to that. Let me follow my train of thought here and come back to that. What was I saying? The shock factor. Yeah. And so I believe that shock factor, when you're so had a little blip there, that the person has actually broken trust in this way, deceived you, as you said, where you sit, you start to play out these things in your mind like, oh my God, the person that I'm married to or that I love or who's my partner or who has promised to be with me for life or who's supposed to be my team player has just lied to me or has gone out on me or has had sex with another person and then that snowballs, correct?
Yeah, and it's that initial hit of when the trust is broken, there's a devastation with that that's and a shock.
Yeah. But the stories, what were the stories you started to tell yourself? Because I want to move into that because we have to then retrain our thinking. The stories that we fall into and start to tell ourselves then are things like I'll add one, you add one. Let's go back and forth. Stories that I heard in my head. Okay, so you said the first one. You said, wow, I must have not done something that would keep my partner.
Yeah, I was accepting blame. It was my fault.
What's the story you told yourself? It's my fault.
It was my fault because I wasn't paying attention to our relationship, but the emotional side of our relationship.
Okay, so it's my fault. I wasn't paying attention to the emotional side, so it's my fault my spouse had an affair. Yeah. So I'm going to always add that in because when we say it that way, we hear how kind of crazy it sounds. But so it's my fault then that my spouse had an affair. Okay, one of the stories I said, oh my God, I must not be as cute, smart, funny, whatever as this other person, or my partner wouldn't have had an affair, right? What's another one that you would lay awake at night after you guys are separating, getting divorced, that you, when you were taking it personal, that you would tell yourself?
If only, if only I would have been more participating in things that we would do together, you know, as a couple.
Okay, so if only if I would have done more as a couple with her, then I would have kept her from having an affair.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to say it like that. Isn't it crazy? Okay. Another one, you guys, that my clients, you know, say all the time, besides the one that's big, is, you know, where how was I not good enough? That's definitely hit somebody's self-worth and self-esteem. You know, the I'm not good enough. Let me see if you guys are adding in. Can you add in some? Okay, I'm not looking here. Other ones are, oh, here's a good one that clients say. This always happens to me. Whoa. I knew this would happen. Men can't be trusted. Women can't be trusted. This always happens to me. Nobody can actually be counted on, and especially you guys, I hear this from women. Men can't be counted on to not actually have an affair, especially if they're just presented with the opportunity. And then people start running that through their heads and start telling that story over and over. Think about when we start telling these stories, you know, our subconscious believes them. We start believing these, and we start moving them through the world saying, this is my fault. Somebody stepped out of integrity or acted out of character because of me, or because of something I didn't do. Do you hear how kind of wacky that is? Okay, so if any of you are in this place and are running those stories, or have been for a while running those stories, a repeat of old patterns, bringing in the same types of people. What are we attracting? Yeah. 2 people said that, Sarah. So this is really important to look at. If you're continuing, I had another woman say, 3 people that she was with, each one of them had an affair. Again, please don't hear this as blame. This is not saying, oh, people are having affairs because of you. Absolutely not. 100% no. People are having affairs because they don't know how to live in integrity. And what's really happening is that they're leaning on old, unhealthy coping skills to deal with emotions and things and fears that are going on with them. And that's the work I do too. And that's what I want you to have compassion for. I don't want you to tolerate it. I don't want you to bring it into your life, but I want you to have compassion. I want you to let go, all of you. The next step here, if you've been through this, is to begin to take responsibility for yourself and how you're showing up. Look at what you can own, as Brian's been talking about. Look at what you can own about what you were doing to contribute to the breakdown of the emotional connection in the relationship. But do not take on at all any responsibility, and I mean any, for a person making a choice to break a vow, to step out of integrity, to have an affair, to lie, to do whatever it is that we're talking about here around being deceived, okay? Make that distinction. This is mine, and this is what I get to learn from and work on. This was the other person's, and I will not tell myself stories from here on out that loop me into having something to do with someone being so out of integrity, okay? That's the first thing. You have to make that decision. I will no longer take this personal and run the story of I had something to do with this person's poor, hurtful choice. I just simply had something to do with the connection getting broken down between us. Is there anything I can learn from that going forward? But I will not take it personal, okay? If you are attracting this over and over, which we're going to talk about moving forward now, if you're attracting this, if you're moving forward and attracting this over and over, there is something for you to look at. Sarah, good question. Lee, you were on here making comments before about this happening to you, and we need to look at that. The person who made comments on the Facebook page said, yes, what she realized about herself, because she brought this to her over and over 3 times, was her words, I was being too nice. I was doing this nice thing. Well, what I know as a coach from that means is when someone says I'm being too nice, it means a couple of things. It means they're missing cues. It means they're tolerating poor behavior in the beginning, things that might have led you to saying, this is not okay with me. And if this kind of thing keeps going on, small deceptions, white lies, somebody truly not participating in trying to bring the connection back, if those things are going on and you're putting it under the heading of, oh, I want to be nice, I don't want to rock the boat, that's codependent behavior, my friends. That's caretaking behavior. And yes, you're setting yourself up for somebody to think that any behavior in a relationship will be tolerated, will be okay, and you're setting yourself up for somebody to not be an equal partner who's learning, growing, and who is not going to be leaning on old coping skills or old habitual patterns to deal with issues and problems that come up in a relationship. Can you see that? Is that answering your question, Sarah? Let me see what Christine is saying. She says, aha, my father cheated all the time on my mother, so I put up such huge emotional barriers. I didn't let love in that was offered. Such an insight. And Christine, I would say, look at this. My father cheated all the time on my mother, so look at that. Not blaming or shaming your mother. But if that went on over and over, your mother had a codependent hand in this, didn't she? She is not responsible for your father's poor behavior, poor choices. But what she let your father know loud and clear was, do you know? I'll tolerate this.
Yeah.
I will tolerate this. There will be no consequences of this behavior.
Right. No consequences.
I will not set boundaries. I will not say, I am not responsible for your poor choices, but you are breaking down our marriage to the point that it may not be able to last. And I want you to know that my deepest desire is for our marriage to last and for, as Annika was saying before, for it to be a thriving, beautiful, deeply connected, intimate marriage. But if you make these choices, which I have no control over, I may choose to leave this relationship. Wow, think about if Christine's mother would have been able to stay empowered and speak that clearly and calmly, no threats, but mean it. First of all, what could have changed in the marriage? Christine, what would you have seen different about what love really looked like and how to be a partner? And then how would that have played out different in your own relationships, in your marriage, in your tolerating things or settling for things? It's fascinating, isn't it? Okay. So let me throw this back over to you. Let's kind of wind this up on what we do when we look at ourselves and start to look at what we need to learn from these experiences, and then really hit a place later. We don't go out dating too early, you guys, after a betrayal or an end of a marriage. Healing first, not running out and dating. But after we look at what is our part in the breakdown of whatever went on, what is my part, not in my partner's poor choice to have an affair or to lie or to have an emotional affair or whatever's going on, but what is my part in having that breakdown happen, and what am I learning? What can I strengthen? Now we're sitting here and we're ready to head back out and basically try again. And what you said got broken down so much is the trust. And what have you heard me say is the most important thing in a relationship? Creating the environment of safety. So that we can be authentic and talk about anything, no withholds, and trust. So if you've just gone through an ending and you've been deceived, you've been on the end of a betrayal or an affair, you've done a bunch of personal healing, and you say, I think I'm ready to head back out there. What happened for you when you thought, I think I'm ready, and then you started to date? What was the experience like for you?
Well, one thing, I didn't do enough personal healing.
Okay.
In between.
Why was that?
Well, I just I wasn't quite as awake as I am, and didn't really reflect on it a great deal, other than knowing I was at the end of a marriage, and I was at that point going to move on to something new. It was a couple of years before I dated, and what I found interestingly is that I was not trusting women, and as a result, it was really because I wasn't trustworthy. I wasn't a trustworthy person. So I entered into a relationship.
So hold on a minute.
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt here because I'm sure everybody right now is going, oh, what do you mean you weren't a trustworthy person? So you were a trustworthy person in your marriage. Mm-hmm. Yes, no?
That is true, yes.
So now you're saying in this period afterward, I wasn't a trustworthy person. I think you're going to have to share. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to share more because all of us sitting here trying to learn from this are not understanding what you mean.
Well,
so you were a trustworthy person in your marriage. What do you mean, I realized I wasn't a trustworthy person? How? When?
Because I wasn't willing to be myself and have my real self come forth in my new relationships. I was guarded. I was keeping things back. I was just saying, okay, this is what you're going to get of me. You're not going to get the whole thing, because I don't really trust you, because I've been burned big time, and so I was holding a lot back, and I wasn't the most trustworthy individual on my side.
Oh my God, you guys! I'm going to stop him right here, and then we're going to let him talk a little more because I know you want to listen to Brian. Get your journal, seriously. Get your journal right now. This is where we put a star, okay? What Mr. Hathaway just shared is huge. If you consider yourself a trustworthy person, a person of integrity, a person of character, if you have not done this personal foundation work that I keep encouraging all of you to get a hold of me, hire me at least for the 8-week program, and do the personal foundation work, which is coming up with your own personal honor code and your personal standards of what you will hold yourself to and how you will show up in the world authentically, which you just said. Setting boundaries, being able to tell people no, not settling, setting clear boundaries, and unhooking from the need for approval from others, validation from the outside. If you haven't done that work, which if you haven't, you need to get a hold of me, and we need to get you set up for my 8-week coaching program. Then what he's saying will happen. You may have been a trustworthy person before. You may have been a person that you've pictured of integrity, but you may have gotten so hurt and broken down your trust in other people that now you are moving out in the world and out into the dating world or into your world in general, actually being out of integrity and not really trusting yourself or being trustworthy because you're withholding, you said withholding, keeping parts of yourself back, not being fully transparent,
right,
not being vulnerable and authentic and telling full truths out there because you don't want to get hurt.
Exactly. Yeah, not telling full truths. That's a big part.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take this further. Let's look and see what anybody is sharing here. Jan, we teach others how to treat us. Absolutely. You've heard me say that a million times, Jan.
Yeah.
And that's what boundary setting's about, is we teach other people how to treat us. We say, this is what is okay with me and this is what I'm not. I'm cultivating self-love, authenticity, and boundaries. Yay, Jan! Yay, yay, yay. Hi, Patty.
Nice.
That's so fabulous. I want to do this work together. So let's wind it up on this. So here we are then moving out. If you notice that you are moving out into the world, dating or just with other people, and you've taken too big of a hit because of being deceived, a betrayal, an affair, lies, being with somebody who's a compulsive liar, being with somebody who tells white lies, being with somebody who lies by omission, that kind of thing is so unnerving that it can actually put you on very rocky footing and break down your personal foundation. The first thing to do is to build that personal foundation back, or maybe build it for the first time. Personal standards, personal honor code, boundaries, and unhooking from the need for approval from others, so that you are looking for your own validation, your own self-love, you have confidence in who you are, you're comfortable in your own skin, you can tell the truth, you can be authentic, you can be fully present. If you realize I'm heading out in the world and I don't have that, that's our work here. You and I need to be working together, because I want you to have that. I don't want you to carry the pain of a betrayal or being deceived around, or carry resentments, or have it color your life. That pain of that betrayal was bad enough. I don't want you to carry the pain around anymore. Okay? So deal. Will you pinky swear with me? If it's time to do the work with me to get past this, please invest in yourself. The money will be well spent for you to work with me to get out of this, so that you can move forward with a sense of freedom. Okay?
Freedom. Yeah.
The next thing is, okay, so when you realize that, and you're out there, you guys, and you realize, uh-oh, I'm withholding, I've got some walls of protection up, you come back, you do more of this work. Then what? What can you keep telling yourself when you're out there? What was helpful when you then stopped dating, when you realized, okay, I need to stop dating because I just got myself, on the last live stream he was talking about that he had settled and gotten himself into a really bad kind of, his words, crazy,
Yes.
toxic relationship with someone, and then got out of that finally, and you said because you wanted to come back to yourself. What did you do then to get really ready again?
Just really looked at myself, and was kind of gifted by the universe, if you will, with the knowledge to be present and really show up as myself and understand what boundaries are. And I started meditating. I really started looking at how I wanted to be, and made a commitment to myself to make those changes. And I started meditating. I started having present moment living, and found that that's where the joy is. That's where the peace comes. That's where the freedom is.
And I would just add on to that for all of you before I wind it up here. And so by doing those kinds of practices, those are the practices after the healing, after changing the stinking thinking, all the things that you started to take on, saying, oh, it must be me and all that. After changing the thinking, after getting your personal foundation solid under you again, if you need to work with someone, do that. Then these practices, the practices that keep us grounded in that, in keeping our minds clear. Morning meditation, every day. It doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes. I'm doing a miracle morning right now, which is amazing. Morning meditation to keep ourselves connected to our higher power, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, and that wisdom and guidance. Present moment living, saying to ourselves over and over, let me come present into this moment. Let me be here right now, not in the past, because that's where this happened. This happened in the past. And not worrying about the future, which is what we're talking about, is not going into, what if this happens again? What if somebody does this again? The practices are meditation and coming into the present moment over and over and over again, saying to yourself, this here, right now, is what I have. And right here, right now, what I have control over is me. I have control over one thing, and it is actually what gives me freedom. I have control over how I show up, the man or woman that I want to be, and being my best self every day. That's what I have control over. And when you do that, you guys, that is what stops these old patterns from playing out. That's what changes what we're attracting and how we actually truly use the law of attraction, not these weird ways that we try to manipulate it to get certain things. That's how it actually organically activates the law of attraction, is by how we are showing up in every moment, clear, loving, kind, and our fullest, best, authentic selves. That's then what activates that law of attraction and what adds to our confidence. And I would say, we'll end on this, that adds then to building back our trust. Because when we trust ourselves, when we love ourselves and we trust ourselves, it's not about trusting somebody else. We don't know what the universe is going to throw us. It's not about trusting anyone else or anything else. It's not about trusting that things are going to unfold a certain way in our lives. It's not about trusting what anybody else is going to do or not do. It's about having such trust in ourselves and who we are, and loving who we are, and loving our life, that we relax, that we access our resilience, that we access our empowerment, our authentic power, and we move out in the world every day saying, I'm not going to be concerned with what anybody else or anyone or anything is doing out there or what's happening out there. I'm going to be concerned with who I am and how I'm showing up every day. And when we trust ourselves, that's how we move out into the world, letting go of the past and worry about the future, and stay solidly grounded in just showing up as the man or woman that we want to be. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, when I show up and I'm me, and so many of my relationships have improved and moved to a new level, and I don't have anything to worry about. I make meaningful connections on a daily basis with people I meet for the first time.
Yeah. Because
I've made a choice to show up and be me. Yeah. And what a marvelous gift I've been given.
Yeah. Meaningful connection.
Yeah.
Remember, we have no control over anyone but ourselves, but it is astounding the powerful, positive influence that we have on everyone around us and everyone we come into contact with, just simply by who we are being. So I challenge you to look at that today. Look at your personal foundation. How strong is the personal foundation under you right now? And are you proud on a daily basis of who you are being, the man that you are being in the world, the woman that you are being in the world, how you are showing up? And if you're off in any way, let's get to work on that. If you need to hire me to do some personal foundation work, let's do this dance together. It's fun. I love it. And if you're in pain from any recent deception or betrayal or affair or lies or whatever, let's get you out of that pain, okay? There's a big life to be lived out there, and it's meant to be lived with joy and personal freedom, and it is absolutely possible, all right?
Hi,
Let me
Steve.
just see. Hey, Steve, how are you? So nice to have you here. Any of you who are just caught the end of this, please go back in and watch it today. And once again, I will ask of you, please do me and everyone else a favor. Please go in, listen to this replay, share it on your own timelines, say this is important, please listen, share it with anybody who's going through some pain right now, or who you know has been through a betrayal or some pain or a deception or lies or whatever, and maybe is not getting on the other side of it, okay? So please, I am asking, please, for all of us here, will you please share this replay? I'm trying to help get a ripple effect going out there of health and healing with these teachings. And once again, whatever else you think is important for us to talk about, send me an email at barb@coachbeck.com. Let me know what topics you'd like to discuss. Give us your comments, put your comments here, and let's keep all of this going. Love and blessings to all of you.
Thank you,
Peace,
everybody.
and have a wonderful week.
Peace.
Bye.